The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Well, hello, my name is Mike Affelberg. I'd like to welcome you back to another installment of Living United with Nashua Business. In this television show, we interview local business owners and business people who are very involved with philanthropy at a local level. Today I have with me a guest, Rolf Goodwin. Rolf is an attorney with McLane Middleton. We're going to talk a little bit about the types of work that Rolf does there and about how he gives back for the community. I will also, in terms of truth in advertising, tell you that Rolf is on our executive committee and the board at United Way and is past president of our board as well. So thank you, Rolf. Thank you for being there.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you today. So we'll talk maybe a little bit about personal stuff and your life, you and Nancy and kids and that sort of thing, if it's okay.
Fire away.
All right. So, well, let's start with where are you from? Because I know that you're not from here, which is refreshing because a lot of the people I recently interviewed are from here. So I'm glad to have somebody else who's from away.
Originally born and raised in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which of course is a former steel town, now university town.
And when did you actually come to Nashua?
Came to Nashua in 1982, fresh out of law school, and came here because I had a good job offer.
A good job offer in Nashua, New
in
Hampshire?
Nashua, New Hampshire.
Really?
Really.
Who did you start with?
I started with Hamblett and Kerrigan.
Okay.
In those days, that was working with the late David Hamblett and the late Joe Kerrigan, who were quite the lawyers.
Oh, very good. Now, was your wife Nancy with you already at the time? Or?
She was not. We met here.
Oh, you met here in Nashua. Is she from Nashua?
She's originally from Long Island.
So what brought Nancy then? I did not know that. Where did Nancy?
Nancy came here to work for Digital Equipment as a
okay.
software engineer, and the rest is history.
Yeah, we know how that's gone. Absolutely. Now, Nancy and you are both very involved with music and in the arts, and I know that Nancy is a professional or semi-professional violinist with Symphony New Hampshire.
She's a professional violinist with Symphony New Hampshire and a teacher of violin.
So your whole family seems to be musically inclined.
There's not much chance to escape music in our house.
So how did that become such a kind of a common thread of the Goodwin household?
Well, we were raised on it, and Nancy's, as I mentioned, a violinist who played since she was a kid and was actually a music composition major at Vassar, and in those days you were not a computer science major. That didn't exist. So the computer companies looking for people who might have aptitude to write software and figure out Windows version 1 that she worked on, thought music composition was a great metal set, so
that's
they brought her in.
Very interesting. That's really very logical and kind of forward thinking on their part to recruit in the musical environment.
Right.
Because nowadays, I know that we work with Nancy quite a bit at United Way in the music program that she's involved with. And if, from a United Way perspective, I always tell, when people ask why do you do that, and it's not that we don't care about the arts, because we do, but the reason we do has more to do with brain development than it has to do with, the thought that we're creating world-class musicians. Nancy might think otherwise, right?
No, it's all about the social developmental side. There's a million studies out there showing that kids who are, particularly with string instruments and playing in ensembles on string instruments, do better with all different kinds of things in school and learn how to work as a team better, are better at math, a lot of studies on that.
Yeah, language, math, that's all interconnected.
Right.
So when they talk about STEM, they never include music in that. It's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but it should really be STEM and all the things that make your mind, agile in that way, I would think.
Increasingly, there's a pushback on that and saying it's now STEAM with A being the arts.
Yeah, that's true. Right. So I don't think a lot of people will know what Nancy does with her program. Maybe we should talk about that a
Sure.
little bit. Give that some PR, if you will.
Well, Nancy's the founder and runs a program called Sinfonietta Strings. And Sinfonietta Strings really has two major component parts, one of which is offering string instrument lessons, group lessons in elementary schools in the Nashua school system. But it's not a program that has a penny of public funding. It's something that is funded by outside groups to make this possible in the schools. So what they'll do during the school year is have groups generally of 3 kids who are being taught together to play. So they're not only being taught what they're doing, but taught to listen to each other and to learn with each other.
What ages does she? Which grades?
It starts with 3rd grade
Okay.
and works up through the elementary level. Most of the kids in that program are on pretty heavy scholarship. Many, if not most of them, are free, and the others are on a very nominal amount of money that they pay. And they get their own violin that they get to learn on and identify with and all that. Then
So that teaches them a little bit, like there's a responsibility
some
component.
responsibility component. And then when they're a bit further along, when they've learned a bit, they can join. There's an ensemble that practices every week at Nashua High School North. And again, the kids are learning to play as part of a bigger group.
I should tell you, I think you know, I've been to a couple of their concerts, and I was very, very impressed. I will say, I went in with the thinking this is going to be as terrible as when I played violin in the 3rd grade, and because we were truly beyond horrible. And I was amazed. These kids really, they pick it up, and they can really play real music.
Sure. And one of the things that's helped motivate them is Nancy's developed a partnership with the orchestra at Harvard, where kids come up from Harvard to work with these kids. And that really gives them a sense that what they're doing matters and they have some goals.
And it's probably more relatable. I imagine these are younger people.
These are college students.
Not old fuddy-duddies like you and me saying,
Right.
play your instrument, practice in the afternoon, but people who are actually young and relatable.
Right.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool kids.
It's a very cool program.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very nice. Who are some of the other funders? I mean, United Way helps participate.
United Way is part, the Nashua Education Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, the State Council for the Arts, Nashua Rotary. Who am I missing here? There's a few other funders who have been very generous.
That's
So the
great.
program is growing very deliberately one school a year because there's a lot of administrative startup
Right.
each year with adding a school.
Right. Well, it's great to hear about a program like that. Education funding has been hit pretty hard in the last couple of years, so it's pretty remarkable when a private person can step in to avoid that way and really make a difference.
Well, a lot of credit to the school district for seeing that this is a good thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I did talk to Dr. Brown about it the other day, and she also resonated with her. She thought that's pretty remarkable. So it's good. So it's just shifting gears just a little bit. I'd like to maybe learn a little bit about you professionally. You're an attorney. Of course, that must mean that there's a number of jokes that you've heard over the years. We won't go into any of them.
I think I've heard all of them, right?
Probably wrote a couple too, I
Right.
imagine. What is your practice? What is your specialty, and what kind of clients do you typically work with?
Well, what I do has absolutely nothing to do with as seen on TV. So that,
Damn,
kids are always like, well, how come it doesn't look like that?
right.
But, I'm with McLane Middleton, which is the largest law firm in New Hampshire. There's 90 of us lawyers, and so we are pretty specialized into
You're up in
a
Manchester.
bunch of areas. My office is in Manchester, but I'm statewide. We also have offices in Concord, Portsmouth, and in Woburn, Mass. People driving by 128 may have seen the sign on the big building there on the
I
Trade
haven't,
Center.
but I'll look for it now. I'm sure that
It's a pretty
it'll pop
bright
right
light.
out. Yeah.
So I do two things. I head our real estate practice, and that's mostly a commercial real estate practice. And then the other is our nonprofit practice. We represent a lot of nonprofits, and they have a lot of interesting issues. We represent pretty much any private school you've ever heard of. We represent one of the four biggest firms in the country for that area, and represent a lot of medical people and a lot of providers of different kinds.
I know that with United Way, if you do with other nonprofits the type of work that you do with us, it's been tremendously helpful. You've worked with us on recrafting our bylaws, on helping with setting up different lease arrangements, waivers for events, all of that kind of thing. I know that I probably do what a lot of people do. I go online and be like a Google lawyer for about 10 minutes and send you a document which you have to completely redo because, like, what the heck is Mike thinking?
Well, but that's the first step, and that's the important thing, not the last step.
Yeah, well, it seems to work so far, but tell me when I'm doing something wrong.
Right.
Oh.
But the firm has a very strong and long-standing tradition of a culture of being involved in nonprofits, and if you go through what John McLane, the younger, did in being one of the founders of the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, the Palace Theater, and many other organizations, Child and Family Services. It's expected, and everybody who works there is on board with that. Right.
That's great. What types of nonprofit and philanthropic work does your firm typically get involved with?
Everything would be the short answer. We've been involved. I think the thing that I find most interesting is kind of rescue work when somebody's gone a little off the rails and you need to pull them back. And it's all kinds of things, whether there's board disputes or
forgetting to file something,
problems with their mortgage, problems with, we find a lot of people, for some reason, don't compulsively reread their bylaws constantly. And they drift away from it, and then they find that they've got a problem with whether they're authorized to do what they're doing.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting exercise for us, right? Because, not that we were doing anything that was necessarily inherently wrong or untoward, but I think it had just been a long time since we'd actually read our bylaws. And sitting down and going through the exercise, our organization has evolved, and you're institutionally your institution is sort of codified in your bylaws. So reflecting back is what we're doing, what we say we're doing, and where are the gaps. That was a very interesting exercise.
Well, the biggest problem I see is that a lot of nonprofits lose focus on their mission, and there's mission creep. And you kind of have to call them back and say, no, the reason you asked people for money and that they gave you money was for this, and that's what you need to be doing.
So I was thinking maybe about starting an animal shelter as part of what we do in our downstairs. Are you telling me that we shouldn't do that?
Well, I think we cover the animal shelter part with our board. So
my board is my boss, so I really can't comment on that. I'll let you do that yourself. That's funny. No, yeah, you're right. Mission creep is, but nonprofits do that for a lot of reasons. Some of it has to do with fundraising, going where the money is. Sometimes people just, I think they get tempted off track. We've seen a lot of that in the last couple of years with organizations that are, just doing things that are funded heavily where their original mission isn't funded heavily. So, well, we should do that. Happens, I guess.
it does.
So, and personally, what sort of philanthropy, what sort of things do you actually get involved with yourself?
Well, of course, United Way is of long standing, and I've been involved in different arts organizations, whether it be I'm involved with the National Choral Society, which I've been singing with for a very long time, and that's a great thing to do. Makes me happy every Monday night. And then
is that like a barbershop quartet?
No, that's a classical chorus of about 60 people who perform the great works of the
Really?
Western Canon, and if anybody is watching who that sounds interesting to, go on Facebook and find out all about how to join, because we'd be interested in that. I do a number of other things. I've been involved for many years with the Ethics Committee of the New Hampshire Bar Association,
Okay.
and we work with the Supreme Court and others on keeping the rules updated and sort of letting the bar know about ethical issues you might want to watch out for.
Okay.
I've been involved in the education side for a long time. Probably my principal thing has been heading up the admissions and financial aid side of Harvard in New Hampshire, where my passion there is finding kids from non-traditional backgrounds whose parents didn't raise them with a silver spoon that said Harvard on it from when they were 4 years old.
It wasn't in their paradigm.
It wasn't in their paradigm. It may be unimaginable to a lot of parents and a lot of kids, but we get fascinating and wonderful kids from everywhere, from the tree streets in Nashua to little towns off the beaten path up north, and that's what I love to see.
Yeah, that's great. That's very interesting. And of course, we just had our Day of Caring, and you were very involved in that. It was a great event. We had, I think, about 200 plus volunteers come, and you were one of them. So, and you've been doing Day of Caring, I think, for
Forever,
a
approximately.
long time. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it's approximately forever. So, what have you done? What types of things have you typically done on the Day of Caring?
Well, Day of Caring has different sides to it, but the core of it is for people who are not working with nonprofits to get out there and get into these nonprofit places, and whether it's painting a wall or helping to repair a deck or cleaning up some landscaping, along the way you talk to the people who work there and the people who benefited from it and find out what the needs are and how they're being addressed by this agency that is supported by United Way. And what I find exciting about it is that people often don't know that much about the needs that exist in the community and how they're being addressed by United Way, and then they go forward with, okay, I get this now. This is something I really want to support.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw that as well. I managed to make it out to about 30 of the different locations that day, and everywhere I went, the volunteers were just very engaged and really enjoying what they're doing. And even if it was painting walls or digging holes in the ground or cleaning up cupboards for elderly people at the hunt, they were just really enjoying what they were doing, and it looked like the people that were either clients that they were helping or at the agencies were really appreciative of the work. So it's a pretty remarkable event.
It's a wonderful event, and there's always room for more people.
There is always room for more people. That I saw as well. Probably could have used another 100 without any problem at all. But it was still pretty great. And then, of course, McLane runs a very strong campaign. Campaign meaning a workplace campaign. We haven't talked much on this show about what a workplace campaign actually is. So I'd be kind of holding off on that to ask somebody who's deeply involved in that, from your perspective, what a workplace campaign is, because people don't know that a lot of times.
Well, leading into that a little bit, we've got a community services committee at McLane that is constantly involved in doing all kinds of things. There's a group that meets in the lunchroom regularly to knit caps for needy kids and that sort of thing. And they're astonishingly productive, and they go out and help with the food bank to load shelves there and all that. But once a year, in a week around September 11th, we have a 1 week campaign. Ours is much more compressed and much more intense than most people.
Yeah, a lot of them are 2 or 3 weeks, and some of them are just all year long.
Right. And it's designed to be engaging. One of the most fun things we do is on the Tuesday of each campaign week, we invite everybody in our building, because it's a big building, to come to the 5th floor and have ice cream that Ben & Jerry's comes out and serves, so that gets people to show up. And we have maybe a dozen or 15 agencies come in who are there to talk with people about what they do and where the money from United Way goes. So, but the service committee is out there talking to people and about where the needs are and the firm culture and background, and that we want to raise this year $80,000, which looks like that's where it'll come in, and that's a useful campaign.
So one question I always ask everybody who sits where you're sitting is about the business case for this type of work, because as great as it is, there must be some reason why McLane Middleton and Rolf Goodwin would do these things that has some sort of a grounding also in business principles.
Sure. It's an easy business case to make because what you see is that because United Way funds the targeted programs that it does, the schools are more productive, training people that we might want to hire because you don't have as many kids coming in as you otherwise would who are just not ready or not functioning well. It's all kinds of basic things. We've discovered, United Way was at the forefront of discovering a few years ago that a lot of kids were coming to school with really bad toothaches. They didn't get dental care. So the Dental Coalition came along, funded by United Way, and there's a lot more kids who are better able to focus and better able to learn and train in school than there were before. There's a lot of focus on programs for mental health, and it's not, we're in the middle of a downtown. We do a lot of work in downtown Nashua,
Right.
and the tendency for there to be really unkempt mental illness problems wandering on the streets has gone down dramatically in the time I've been here, because there have been excellent programs by people like Community Council and others who have got people off the streets, got them working, got them on their meds regularly, really made a difference. So that keeps our taxes down, that makes our communities more attractive to people we want to hire, it makes it safer. The business case is easy.
So some of it's rising tide lifting all boats. Some of it's the community being healthier. And of course, a healthy community is economically vibrant, has money to spend on the legal profession. There's a lot. I guess it's kind of, it all spins around into a good economy.
Right. It's a good healthy loop.
Yeah. Good. I love that you've actually also thought this through, because when I ask this question, not everybody is like ready to like, oh, I don't know, I never thought about that. We just do it. Obviously you do, but you've also thought about it, which I appreciate as well. So I skipped entirely over this, but maybe we can loop back to the beginning and family. So you have a couple of kids, and maybe we talk a little bit about what they are doing and where they are and that kind of thing.
Sure. Nancy and I have two boys. Our older is Henry, who is a student at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell studying meteorology. He is, not surprisingly, a good clarinetist. And
That's not the same as astrology, though.
No.
So he wants to be a weatherman.
Meteorology is he's on the scientific side. I don't think he has a lot of interest in doing the TV side, but
Yeah. Oh, okay. So he wants to
really
work
a
for like
scientist.
NOAA or something of that sort.
Right. There's a number. There's military. There's NOAA. There's
Yeah.
private commercial applications to figuring out how the weather moves and how it works. And so he's enjoying his studies, I think, a lot, and lives in Nashua, in South Nashua, and is I think coming along well. And our younger son is George, who is a senior, which is a little hard for us to believe, in college.
It comes so fast.
And he's at Harvard, and again, he's majoring in joint major with archaeology and anthropology, but he's a trumpeter and has had the opportunity to play all over the place. Last spring, one of the orchestras at Harvard did a tour of Philippines and Korea, and I think that was a very eye-opening experience.
And he and my daughter Casey, of course, were in school together, and we're in the German club, I think,
They
together.
were in German club together.
So it's a very small world when I found that out. I think my daughter was like really creeped out by that, actually.
But the world came around after a few years.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So I'm looking at the time and thinking maybe we're about ready to round it down. Anything else that you'd like to talk about as far as what you think might encourage other businesses who are thinking perhaps about philanthropically participating in the community, what a couple of great ways might be to get involved?
Sure. Well, I think getting involved with United Way is
I didn't
one
pay
of
you
the
to
most
say
useful,
that,
but
of
I will
course,
say it
of
because I believe
course.
it.
Yeah.
But there's two things I think that are critical. Number one is by getting involved and talking to the agencies, you can learn more about the needs of your neighbors in the
Right.
community and your employees. And it can be surprising how much that is and what kind there is. The other is United Way. Of course, why give to United Way? There's a lot of people to give to.
Sure.
And I think it's very useful to be involved in what we call the allocations process, where you look at the programs that are out there and figure out where is the money going to be used most effectively, what's going to have the best measurable results. And there you start going, okay, so having somebody to vet all that for me and figure out how our company, our employees can get the most bang for their buck, that's a pretty good reason to get involved in United Way.
And that's a great example of how also, because people think about volunteering, and a lot of times they don't realize all the different types of volunteering there is. And one of them is exactly what you just said. Because we just went through this past August with a group of about 22, 23 volunteers who looked at, how do we distribute the investment that we're going to make to all the agencies where we are going to invest based on sort of how effective their programs will be to meet the needs that we've identified in our needs assessment. And I think it took going through that complete process for some of our volunteers to see like the loop and how it actually connects the give to the need to the decision to invest and becomes sort of that continuous improvement loop.
Sure. And people, employees, managers want to help out. Once they find out they want to get involved, it's our job to enable them to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't end on a more perfect note than that, except I have a gift for you. So,
thank you.
So, and I always say this, but it's true. Nobody comes on the Mike Show without getting a gift, and nobody ever gets a very good one. And you're no exception today.
There we go.
I'm going to give you, to add to your collection, a Day of Caring water bottle.
That's useful.
You
Thank you very
demonstrate
much.
that with pride, with probably about 100 others.
Right.
And I don't know, do you have a black Day of Caring shirt yet?
I probably
know,
do, but
well,
it's old and worn out, so it's
well,
good to have a new one.
We had a contest for the oldest shirt, so that you can probably throw that one out at this point, and here's a new one for you. So,
All right.
You can
Thank
wear
you
that
very
with
much.
pride
And
when
we'll
you're
be
on the road.
Happy to tell people about Living United.
Oh, there you go, Rolf. It's been a pleasure having you today. Thank
Thank
you
you
for coming. Thank you for all that you do with not just United Way. We talked a lot about that, but also in our community and with McLane Middleton and with Nancy at Sinfonietta.
It's a great
really
opportunity.
terrific. Thank you very much.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.